Everything we do as persons is never simply black and white. The shades of grey can temporarily make true love appear dead and even turn good people into terrible ones. The majority of people who have affair love their initial relationships. Most cheaters aren't cheaters anyways. They aren't dishonest, infidelity, treacherous, or otherwise undesirable. They are just human, and even the good ones tend to make terrible blunders. Everyone will. So here's my story. My stomach lurched when Aliana, my wife, sat by my hospital besides, wearing stylish, glittering pants and her hair more styled than normal. Her entire tone had changed and I knew she was having an affair at that time. "Did you meet someone?" I asked, my words halting in my throat. She did not apologize, and she did not even show much emotion. "Yes, I've been dating a man I met online. You and I are becoming more like brothers and sisters." I burst out crying. For weeks something had been off. Her visits had been less frequent, and she'd spent most of them outside making phone calls. She would even had a little tattoo on her bottom of her arm, which I thought was very stuffy. What I did not realize at the time was that she would bring her younger boyfriend into our family house in London, a lovely seaside town in the UK. Never again to say that before she started seeing him, she had been seeing Chris, one of my oldest friends who was a frequent hospital visitor. I could not beat the wall infestation or sprint after my wife as she put on her new high heels and left my room because I cried loudly. I was nearly paralyzed, gripped by a rare and possibly deadly neurological disease that had turned me unable to stand, feed myself, or even use the toilet. The indignity was horrible. I had been a healthy guy due to my hiking passion, but the disease had left me helpless as a baby. Knowing that my wife was having an affair would have been terrible at any time, but especially so when I was suffering from a life-threatening disease. The lady who destroyed my heart wasn't the same pleasant, loving girl as I met in 2015 at an army language school in Beaconsfield, just outside of London. Aliana was 6 years older than I was. I was a well-known dog handler, having previously served as a royal engineer in Northern Ireland, Bosnia and Berlin. Aliana oversaw the army catering program, and we fell in love immediately. She was lovely and blonde, with a magnetic charm that complemented my shyness, and she shared my love for the outdoors. I proposed in September 2015. We had spent the week walking and cycling through the stunning landscape of the Lake District, and I was overcome with love for her. "I've simply got to propose," I recall thinking. We wrapped our arms around each other when she said yes. Aliana and I did not want to make a big deal out of our wedding, so we were married at the Beaconsfield Register Office in 2016. We had to move the wedding up several months since I was on standby to go to the Gulf with Army. After that, we celebrated with our closest friend and family at a local restaurant. Life was wonderful, and we soon moved to the old cathedral city of California in the United States. We tried for a baby a year later, but Aliana had scarring on her fallopian tubes. Our only option was IVF, but after one failed try, we chose to quit. Aliana and I had a really happy marriage, even though we would never be parents. Summer 2020, the last before I came sick, was amazing. Aliana and I felt like we could take on the world together. By then, we had also purchased our big house in London, completely with lovely grounds, and both of us had wonderful employment and social services. Then one morning in October 2020, I woke up with my arms stiff, much as they used to be when I was in the army. My legs became numb within days, and they couldn't support my body. We ended up at St. Thomas Hospital Casualty Department. As they checked my limb body, I was frightened. I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare virus that affects just 1,500 individuals in the UK each year. According to the test, 10% of the cases are fatal. It affects the nervous system and my body rapidly shuts down. I couldn't walk, sit up alone, eat or wash for less than a week after the first symptoms. The saddest part is that Aliana was awesome. She never left my side, carefully feeding me and even taking me to the bathroom. I love you so much, and I promise you'll never have to do this again when I'm better, I sobbed to her. She came together to arrange for friends and relatives to give me a visit in dedication to lifting my spirits. When my breathing got difficult, I was unable to swallow and had an emergency tracheotomy. I could only converse with grunts or by pointing at symbols on a specific board after that. But when I was brought to critical care in December 2020 and placed on a life support system, I know precisely what the doctors were saying. Guillain-Barré disease was gradually killing me. The pain was awful, and despite my best efforts to be cheerful for Aliana's sake, I felt completely suicidal. Aliana, on the other hand, was my support. "You'll be okay, we'll make it," she would say calmly. When doctors told me I'd never be able to walk again, she promised she'd always care for me. She'd even spent thousands of dollars to have a hot tub installed in our huge garden. In preparation for my homecoming, she reasoned that the warm water would assist relax my body while I recovered. She'd bring me photographs of everything she'd done around the house to keep me going. By May 2021, my condition had miraculously improved sufficiently for me to be sent to a rehabilitation center near Durham. Aliana had planned it since she'd heard they were well equipped to help persons who were paralyzed. Finally, I had hope that they might support me in getting better. However, something changed the next month. Aliana stood out to me immediately. As she was leaving one day, she informed me she would not be home for 10 days. I knew Mom was tired from traveling the 4-hour round trip to see me every day, so I did not question it, but I had this nagging feeling that something was wrong. I missed her so much and could not wait for her next visit. When she did return, she'd spent much of it outside, ostensibly to contact friends or her parents. She'd never done anything like that before. Her visits became less frequent throughout the summer, and she traded in her simple pants and shirts for stylish outfits. She appeared to me more groomed, and she exuded energy I had not seen before. Everything about her demeanor suggested that she was attempting to seem younger. I could not take it any longer by October, and a week before my 30th birthday, I confronted her. When she admitted to having an affair with a younger man she found on the internet, and I was devastated. "We've been together for 6 years. This isn't some teenage love you can just get away from," I cried. "I'm a social conservative who believes in the purity of marriage, in sickness and in health," I decided. And I was so upset that our vows did not mean as much to Aliana. He was the last person I saw 5 days later on my 30th birthday. I wish she'd come to the hospital just to see me, but it was strained. And as I cried, she stayed emotionless. Her mother, who had been wonderful to me throughout my treatment, was the one who told me Aliana had a fling with one of my friends. Chris was in his 50s and used to pay me frequent visits. I regarded him as a father figure who had also watched out for Aliana. I had no idea he had been sleeping with her. I informed him about the affair the following time he came to see me. I was so angry that if I could have gotten out of my chair, I would have kicked him out of the hospital. We'd been friends for years and I trusted him. He had a wonderful wife, and he'd stolen mine as well. He could not look into my eyes or explain how he could sleep with my wife even when I was dying. The fact that Aliana found a man online after having a brief relationship with Chris, who was just 28 years old and over 10 years younger than she, was almost worse than that. Even worse, friends revealed that he had been visiting her at our home and sharing my bed with her. They had seen them walking along the street holding hands. When Aliana's mother visited our house one night, she supposedly saw this man wandering about in only his boxer shorts. She approached Aliana, who responded as follows: "Harry is unable to walk and will never be able to. That means my marriage is over." For months I cried. I never felt lower than I did when I was with Aliana, lower than when my parents passed away, and lower than when I was on the brink of dying. But in the end, I was so incredibly upset that it motivated me to improve. I had to suffer terrible pain in rehab and have to learn how to perform simple activities like cleaning myself. But what Aliana had done to me made me grit my teeth. We sold our house in December after filing for divorce in November on the grounds of adultery because I wanted her and her lover out. They currently share a home close to Huddersfield. I don't recognize Aliana as the lady I was married to for so many years when I speak to her on the phone about the divorce. I was finally able to leave rehab on April 14 of this year. Even though the doctors had told me I would never walk again, I got out of my wheelchair with purpose and was able to leave the facility. While I was in recovery, I purchased a new home with Aliana's kind parents had equipped and decorated for me. Since then, I bought a large new chair, a high-end mountain bike, and a cat to keep me company. I'm in the loft with my wheelchair and preparing for a half marathon in 2022. I no longer take medicines, and the only thing wrong with my feet is peripheral nerve damage, which makes them numb. Even so, I wrote an article about my experience. But I'm cautious around women since if they can ruin your life as Aliana did, I won't want to date for a while. Aliana must have felt helpless while she was suffering alone while I was passing away in the hospital. I sometimes think I am aware of how terrible it was for her, but I cannot figure out what motivated her to cheat on me. Despite everything I'm excited about this year, men used to be the only ones who had affairs. However, the most recent data indicates that women are as likely to be unfaithful, and the reasons may surprise you. Again, both the betrayed partner and the guilty partner wish for the emotional agony caused by infidelity to subside more quickly than it does. According to my experience, people frequently suffer extreme emotional triggers throughout the affair period for at least 2 years. According to experts, if a couple is prepared to put in the effort, they may recover their happy relationship after an affair. Coleman asserts that after an affair, a relationship is still capable of surviving. If you want a good life, you just have to have the courage to say, "This is not for me," and move out and remain as far away as possible. When staying with someone is more for your mental survival than any romantic sense of love, I don't see any other option. Never, ever, ever look back.